guys, what's going on? It's MassiveJoes Raw Review, and I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Awesome Raw Review for the viewers at home today on one of our most popular Stim-free pre-workout supplements from our good friends at Australian supplement company Primabolics. Grind in the house. Let's get straight into it, show you guys exactly what's in it, tell you exactly what it's going to do. That nutritional information panel ain't going to get it done. We're about to go balls deep in this here Primabolics Grinds. Fortunately, we've got a big ass nutritional information panel. It's going to appear on screen in a second. Starting from the top, 40 scoops per tub. In each of these tubs of Primabolics Grind, actually says it right there on the label. Get some zoom and focus action for you guys. 40 scoops per tub, but it is one of these where you can do 1 scoop or 2 scoops per serve. I prefer the 2 scoops per serve, so I'm gonna say 40 scoops per tub, 22 scoop serves per tub. In terms of what the 2 scoop serves is, in terms of what it's made up of, we've got 20 grams. So each scoop weighs 10 grams. The 2 scoop serve is going to be 20 grams. We've got 18.305 grams of actives in that 2 scoop serve, spread across 9 active ingredients that we'll get to in a second. 2 of those active ingredients are trademarked, patented, registered ingredients, and those are, of course, the Vaso-6, which is a vasodilating ingredient, and the Alpha Size, which is a mental focus ingredient, which means, guys, we're dealing with 92% active ingredients and only 8% flavors, sweeteners, color stabilizers, which is exceptional, especially when we get to how it tastes, how it mixes, because when I tell you guys about the flavors, you'll understand why that is actually super exceptional, let alone for, you know, anything, generally speaking, with pre-workout supplements, anything 70% and above active ingredients is really, really good. So to be over 90% active ingredients is super exceptional. In terms of what the 9 active ingredients are, I want to take a slightly different approach here, guys, because I want to really talk about the 4 main effects that we look for in complete Stim-free pre-workout supplements and kind of see how this Primabolic Grind stacks up against those effects, which boxes it ticks, how well it ticks them, and which ones it kind of falls down in. So I'm going to post a link in the description box down below to our supplement simplified articles on MassiveJoes.com. So if you want to go and do some more research on each of these individual ingredients that I'm about to mention, you can go and do that, because I'm not going to get into exactly what they do, the clinical doses, so on and so forth. I'm just going to talk collectively about what they achieve. So the 4 main effects that we look for in Stim-free pre-workout supplements, the first one is muscle pumps and improved blood flow, which is going to relay into improved nutrient delivery, help nutrients get to working muscles more efficiently. The second is muscle power, obviously lifting that light weight like bags of feathers, baby. Third is muscular endurance, making sure we can lift that light weight like bags of feathers, baby, for as long as possible to stimulate as much muscle growth as possible. And then fourth and finally, mental focus and elevation in mood, so that we are dialed in for our workouts and we're feeling good while we're training in the gym. So to go through each of these one by one, muscle pumps, improved blood flow and nutrient delivery, we have a full clinical dose of citrulline malate, we have a full clinical dose of Vaso-6, and we have a very solid dose of potassium nitrate. So these 3 ingredients together are really synergistically going to work to boost nitric oxide through a few different pathways. The L-citrulline malate is going to be through the arginine pathway, citrulline being a precursor to arginine, the Vaso-6 through the vasodilation pathway, and the potassium nitrate through the nitrite, nitric oxide pathway. So we've got some really cool synergism here that really is going to put a big tick next to this effect that we look for in Stim-free pre-workouts, that being increasing muscle pumps, improving nutrient delivery and blood flow. Onto muscle power, we have a full clinical dose of creatine monohydrate, and we have a very solid dose, almost clinical, just under, of betaine anhydrous. Once again, we got some cool synergism here, betaine primarily being a precursor to creatine, and then creatine itself being a precursor to adenosine triphosphate, which is what our muscles use as fuel when we're in the gym, lifting that light weight like bags of feathers, baby. Moving on to muscular endurance, we have a full clinical dose of beta-alanine, undoubtedly the best ingredient for boosting muscular endurance. It's a precursor to carnosine, which allows us to really buffer fatigue toxins such as lactic acid, such as high levels of pH, the sorts of fatigue toxins that really effectively cause our muscles to fail. So if we can buffer those and kind of just push them away for a little bit, we're going to be able to train harder for longer, stimulate more muscle growth. So a big tick next to that one as well. And then finally, mental focus and elevation in mood. This is really probably the biggest tick that this supplement gets across all of these effects. We have a full clinical dose of tyrosine. We have a full we have a very solid dose of the alpha size, the registered trademarked version of choline, and we have a really solid dose of huperzine A. So we've got the tyrosine in there, which is a precursor to L-Dopa, which is really going to help with the elevation of mood. We've got the alpha size version of choline in there, which is obviously gonna help us with the choline production, and particularly acetylcholine production in our brain. And then we have the huperzine A, which prevents the breakdown of excess acetylcholine, which really helps with mental focus. Very good synergistic formula for mental focus and elevation in mood. If we look at the formula as a whole and kind of what it's missing, keeping in mind how well it ticks these 4 boxes that we are looking to get out of our Stim-free pre-workout, on paper, it's a very comprehensive formula. I mean, big tick next to the muscle pumps, improved blood flow and improved nutrient delivery, big tick next to muscle power, big tick next to muscular endurance, and the biggest of all ticks next to mental focus and elevation in mood. So on paper, it's really not missing anything. Of course, you can kind of, get a little bit nitpicky if you want to, and you can say, well, they could throw some agmatine or some norvaline in the mix to make sure that the elevation in nitric oxide, your body's not breaking down that excess nitric oxide, so the muscle pumps last a little bit longer. You could say, well, there's no glycerol in there or a form of glycerol for hyperhydration of muscle cells and really muscle volumization that is going to work synergistically with elevated levels of nitric oxide to really hammer home that muscle pump. So I guess that probably, is something you could add to this formula. You could add Elevate ATP, Peak ATP for extra muscular power. That's going to work quite nicely with the creatine monohydrate and the betaine anhydrous. And then you could add something like a Peak O2 or a taurine for extra muscular endurance. But this is really being very nitpicky here, guys. The formula on paper is really exceptional and ticks all of the boxes that we look for in a Stim-free pre-workout. In terms of how it tastes, how it mixes, comes in 3 flavors. Comes in, see that? Pineapple. Comes in, I'm gonna use this tub because I actually don't have a tub of the next flavor. Strawberry kiwi. Comes in the flavor that you guys really want, the MassiveJoes Red Frog. A little bit more on how that flavor came about in a second. But before we get into the infamous MassiveJoes taste and mixability test, I will tell you guys about the scoop weight because this is a pre-workout and the dosages of these ingredients are very precise. A perfectly level scoop is actually under the label weight by about 10%. So on the label, it says that a perfectly level scoop is supposed to weigh, well, actually it doesn't say perfectly level, it says a scoop is supposed to weigh 10 grams. A perfectly level scoop actually weighs approximately 9 grams. So it's out by about 10%. So pretty much what that means is don't use a perfectly level scoop, be a little bit generous with your scoop sizes to make sure that you're getting the actual label dose 10 grams per scoop and 20 grams per 2 scoop serve. Infamous MassiveJoes taste and mixability test about to go down. I'm mumbling my words because I'm getting so fucking excited to get stuck into the MassiveJoes Red Frog. Let me do that real quick before I tell you guys about why it's called the MassiveJoes Red Frog. So I do have a brand new tub of the MassiveJoes Red Frog here. Now, I do know that these tubs are filled right to the brim. So I'm not going to bro punch this bitch in because I'm going to get powder all over this motherfucker. And that's going to be a mess. I'm going to have to clean that shit up. So I'm just going to peel the lid off carefully. There we go. You guys can see what I mean about there being powder right to the top, filled right to the brim on this Primabolics grind. All right, story of the MassiveJoes Red Frog real quick before I get into the infamous MassiveJoes taste and mixability test. Red frogs, for those of you who are unaware, are a form of Australian lolly. They literally are red frogs. They pretty much taste like there's like a sweet raspberry flavored red frog. So we went to the gentleman at Primabolics and we said, you know, we want to do an exclusive flavor with you guys. We've been wanting to do a red frog flavor because we run exclusive flavors with a bunch of different supplement companies we work with. We've never done a red frog before. We want to do a red frog flavor. Can you guys work with us and nail the fuck out of this flavor? So it literally tastes like, we want it to taste like liquid red frogs. And so what we did was we got a bunch of red frogs and we melted them and we blended them to figure out what liquid red frogs would taste like. And that was the reference point that we used to nail this flavor. And guys, let me tell you, this flavor literally tastes like liquid red frogs. That's why it's called MassiveJoes Red Frog. The flavor technically is a sweet raspberry lolly flavor. Infamous MassiveJoes taste and mixability test about to go down. We got our double wall glass ready to go. We got our spoon ready to go. I'm gonna take 2 scoops. I'm really gonna push this taste and mixability test to the edge. Okay, so I'm gonna go kind of generous scoop. Scoop number 1. Drop this bitch in this bitch. Generous scoop, scoop number 2. I said I wasn't gonna get powder all over the fucking table. I got powder all over the fucking table. Damn it. And all over the tub. Shit, that bad. All right, couple flicks of the wrist. I'm gonna show you guys how it mixes, refresh my memory on how this MassiveJoes Red Frog flavor tastes. All right, that's enough mixing. I will tell you guys that it does mix, and remember I put 20 grams, I put 2 full scoops, 20 grams of powder in probably what's like 300 milliliters of water here. It does mix exceptionally well, but you can kind of see already that it is going to settle down towards the bottom, and that's pretty much going to be the creatine that's going to do that. The creatine monohydrate is going to sit down there at the bottom. So I would go so far as to say blender ball is required for this here Primabolics grind. Let me refresh my memory on how this MassiveJoes Red Frog flavor tastes, man. With our powers combined, Primabolics and MassiveJoes, we nailed the fuck out of this red frog, guys. I'm just gonna call it how it is. I will say that across all 3 flavors, the MassiveJoes Red Frog, the pineapple, and the strawberry kiwi, the flavors are definitely on the sweet side, which is why it works so well with the MassiveJoes Red Frog flavor, because it's a lolly, it's a candy flavor. It needs to be really, really sweet. But all 3 flavors are quite sweet. So if you don't like sweet flavors, you're gonna need to use, you know, I put 2 scoops in like that much water. You're probably gonna need like, man, at least 600-700 mils of water. Else it's gonna, like, that is really, really, it's liquid red frogs. It is legit liquid red frogs. And I'm just gonna say, if it's not already glaringly obvious, this flavor right here, the MassiveJoes Red Frog flavor, is undoubtedly one of the tastiest pre-workout flavors ever created. And I'm not just saying that because we had a part to play in it. All credit goes to Primabolics. They did all of the flavoring and they nailed the fuck out of this MassiveJoes Red Frog flavor. In terms of the effects, because that's what you guys want to know. I've talked about how on paper, how the ingredients stack up against the effects that we look for in a pre-workout. But in the real world, what effects are you going to experience from this Primabolics gram? Let me guys tell you, first and foremost, the pumps are exceptional, but they do fade quite quickly. There is you definitely notice the lack of like an agmatine or an Novoline in here, because the synergistic pump formula really comes into its own very quickly as soon as you take the Primabolics grind. You get pumped as fuck at the start in the first half of your workout, and then the pumps start to fade a little bit. So exceptional, but they do fade, towards the second half of your workout. Usually, let's say, after you've gone an hour into your workout, your muscle pumps start to fade. Power is really, really good. Muscular endurance is really, really good. I want to really focus in on the mental focus and feeling of well-being, because for me personally, this is really what sets Stim-free pre-workouts apart from other Stim-free pre-workouts. When you take the stimulant effect away, how good is a product at making you feel dialed in and in the zone, and just that kind of tunnel vision focus that you expect from a very good complete stimulant-based pre-workout? How good can your Stim-free pre-workout mimic that effect without the use of caffeine, without the use of other stimulants? And this is really where the Primabolics grind comes into its own, because I have not tried a Stim-free pre-workout supplement that nails that effect like the Primabolics grind nails that effect. It is truly, truly world-class. And I really think that, for most people who are taking a Stim-free pre-workout, that is the effect that you're pinning most of your hopes on that effect. Because the muscle pumps, fantastic. Most Stim-free pre-workouts are going to tick that box, at least, give it a solid tick. The Primabolics grind really gives it a nice bold tick, but the pumps do fade off. Muscle power, your Stim-free pre-workout should definitely be getting you that. The grind definitely gets you that. Muscular endurance definitely should be getting you that. The grind gets you that. Mental focus, feeling of well-being, it's like you're on a fucking rocket ship, guys. For real, for real. Side effects with the Primabolics grind, none whatsoever. Stackability, it is an incredibly versatile Stim-free pre-workout, so there's nothing in there that you can take too much of and experience a negative effect, like an agmatine, for example. It really is going to stack with, if you want to stack it with anything, it's pretty much going to stack with anything. So if you want to stack it with a Stim-based pre-workout and use the Primabolics grind to pump up the pumps, pump up the endurance, pump up the muscle power, pump up the mental focus and feeling of well-being, you can do that with pretty much any Stim-based pre-workout on the planet. If you want to stack it with another non-Stim pre-workout, I really don't know what you would stack it with, but let's say you wanted to boost up the pump. You might stack it with something that has an agmatine, has a glycerol in it. Let's say you want to boost up the muscle power, muscular endurance. You might stack it with something that has an Elevate ATP in there, or a Pico 2 in there. So if you wanted to stack it with another non-Stim pre, you really have to kind of get quite intricate with the formulas and make sure that you're just not doubling up on ingredients, because you really don't need to with the Primabolics grind. It's very well dosed in all the ingredients that are in there. It's just going to be slightly redundant. But of course you can, and there's really nothing that's going to prohibit you from stacking it with whatever the fuck you want to stack it with. What does it compare to? So I want to make a couple of comparisons here with what I consider to be two of not just the most popular, but the most comprehensive Stim-free pre-workouts on the market today. On one hand, I want to compare it to Axe and Sledge Hydraulic. On the other hand, I want to compare it to Primeval Labs Mega Pre White. So starting with Hydraulic, when you compare Hydraulic to the Primabolics grinds, the pumps are very similar, but they achieve it through different formulas. So grind is slightly more synergistic, whereas Hydraulic has your agmatine and has your glycerol in there. The net effect is the pumps are very similar. Probably Hydraulic pumps last a little bit longer, but they're not as prominent at the start of your workout. The power in Hydraulic is definitely not as good as the grind. You're going to get better muscle power from the grind. The endurance across both products is similar. Grind has the full clinical dose of beta-alanine. Hydraulic has less than a clinical dose of beta-alanine, but it also has taurine in there, so you get a little bit of synergism. The net effect is the endurance is quite similar. The mental focus on Hydraulic is nowhere near as good as grind. Doesn't even scratch the surface. You get a nice feeling of well-being because it's got some tyrosine and acetyltyrosine in Hydraulic, but there's no choline donor, there's no huperzine in there, and that really shines through, as I mentioned with Primabolics grind. The mental focus and feeling of well-being is absolutely world-class. Hydraulic flavors are not as sweet as Primabolics grind. Hydraulic is $10 more expensive per tub in the Australian marketplace at this point in time. Flipping over to Primeval Labs Mega Pre-White. Once again, the pumps are very similar. Once again, the formulas are quite different. So your Mega Pre-White, once again, has glycerol in there, has norvaline in there, doesn't have as good synergism as Primabolics Grind, but the pumps do last longer. Your power in Primeval Labs Mega Pre-White is nowhere near as good as Grind. The endurance in Mega Pre-White is non-existent. There's actually not one ingredient in that product that supports muscular endurance directly. The mental focus in Mega Pre-White is good, but not as good as the Primabolics Grind. Once again, the flavors are not as sweet, and it is exactly the same price as the Primabolics Grind. Who is it best for? Who's taken this product, guys? Who is taking the Primabolics Grind? It's a non-stim pre. So first and foremost, the most obvious are people who train at night who don't want a stim-based pre-workout because it's too close to trying to go to sleep. It's going to affect your sleep. You're going to sleep shit. You're going to recover shit. You're going to wake up tired, and you're going to have a shit day the next day. That's the most obvious. The second one is people who just don't want stimulants in a pre-workout. Perhaps you train first thing in the morning. Perhaps you have a black coffee when you wake up. That's enough caffeine. That's enough stimulants for you. You don't want extra stims in your pre-workout. That's where a stim-free pre-workout like the Grind is really going to come into its own. Thirdly, people who are already taking a pre-workout who want to supercharge the effects that you're going to get from the Grind. In particular, if you want to supercharge mental focus and feeling of well-being, stack your pre-workout with the Grind. If you want to supercharge stupid muscle pumps in the first hour of your workout, stack it with the Primabolics Grind. If you want to supercharge muscle power, if you want to supercharge muscular endurance, take your current pre-workout and stack it with the Primabolics Grind. Last but not least, price and value for money. The million-dollar question. 40 scoops. In the 2 scoops, per serve, you're dealing with 20 serves per tub. $69.95 in the Australian marketplace. That puts it at $1.75 per scoop, $3.50 per serve. Guys, there ain't no question about it. It is exceptional value for money for what I really consider to be a world-class stim-free pre-workout. I mean, guys, if you're in the market for a stim-free pre-workout that is going to get you ridiculous muscle pumps right off the bat, it's going to support really prominent muscle power, going to help you move more weight for more reps, really going to support muscular endurance, help you move that more weight for more reps for longer to stimulate more muscle growth, and really just knock it out of the park when it comes to mental focus and feeling of well-being without the need for stimulants. And one of the tastiest pre-workout flavors ever created, the MassiveJoes Red Frog. You gotta go and get yourself some Primabolics Grind. Guys, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn your post notifications on your mobile, your cell phone, your desktop PC, whatever device you're tuning into this raw review on, so you don't miss a beat when it comes to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel, including all of these new raw reviews and everything else we've got going on. Guys, that is MassiveJoes raw review on Primabolics Grind in the house. And I'm coming to ya from MassiveJoes.com. Stay massive.
Thank you for tuning into this video. We hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to check out our latest upload and our recommended video, and be sure to subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads.